and we'll get started on our shit, as usual. Now, I have spent the last week, well, let's be honest, I spent the last week playing Starfield again. Where am I on Starfield? Let me check real quick. 950.4 hours. Yeah, we're closing up on 1,000 hours pretty quick on that. This is the most time I've spent in a game since release. Since the last game I spent this much time in when it released was Fallout 4. So another Bethesda game, which gives you some idea of what kind of gamer I am. I do very much like Bethesda games. I have done a lot of thinking about my art over the week, though. And one of the big bits is that I don't feel like Drawbox is for me. I feel like, I mean, it is working on some fundamentals, but I feel like the fundamentals it's working on are not fundamentals that are relevant to what I'm trying to do. And that really kind of got me thinking about what exactly are the fundamentals of what I'm trying to do. And I got to thinking about that. And the first one is obviously perspective, which I've talked about a little bit before. And it's really a very simple concept that a thing which is farther away looks smaller. When you're looking directly at the front of a box, and I've talked about this before, the box, the ball, and the barrel. But specifically, when you're looking at the front of a box, you can't see the back part of the box because it's farther away, so it's smaller. The front part is covering it up. But if you turn it a little bit to the side, a couple of things happen. Number one, since the front of the box is flat, one edge is going to stay close to you, while the other edge moves a little farther away. That makes that farther edge seem smaller. So it makes it look like the edges connecting it are slanted. On top of that, they seem a little bit shorter. Meanwhile, the same thing happens over here. But this side of the box is even farther away, and the sides are sloped even more dramatically because it's significantly smaller. And that just continues as you go. But you can also tilt the box in this direction. You can tilt it towards you. So you can have the corner as close to you. And then you've got the back of the box is farther away. And that makes everything look slanted. But it all falls out of the same basic system. And that same basic system is when things are farther away from you, they look smaller. And one of the things that I immediately got to thinking about with this, I get to thinking about how stuff like this operates. And I got some part of this from Drawbox. The guy said it's helpful to think of the horizon not as a straight line that goes on forever, but as a circle that you are inside of. And I immediately got to thinking about a gyroscope, and you're kind of in here in the rotor. And this is your horizon. But you've got another vertical horizon here. Okay? And that got me to thinking, it kind of works like the headings in Star Trek. Okay? It kind of works like your two-point perspective is all about the bearing of your object that you're looking at. And then you've got the mark, which is your third point of perspective. You have this rotation in this direction and a rotation in this direction. And I know Locke is here watching, so I'll point out there's an obvious problem here with gimbal lock, which is why you use quaternions, but that's an engineering thing. And in art, we don't have to worry about that. I just thought I would point that out. But it's the same basic idea of, if you think of it this way, when you look at your box, you got your box is sitting right here. And what you've actually got is, if you were looking at it from above, you have that box is sitting here, and there's this big sweeping horizon around it, and there's one vanishing point, and there's the other vanishing point, and those rotate around the horizon instead of just moving laterally. And in the same way, if you look at it from the side, you've got your box here, and here's your horizon line, which appears to be flat because you're looking at it from the inside. But then here you have an additional third horizon line, okay? And that line is for your three-point perspective. And because you're looking at these, because these edges are straight up and down, they kind of go on forever. But if you tilt them, okay, then they move along this horizon line. And this solves one of the problems that I always have with perspective, which is you would be drawing a room, and you would draw the room, and you would go, okay, here's the room in perspective, and here is a table that sits over here, and you draw your table in perspective, and that's not particularly difficult. And then over here, you've got a couch, and your couch is in perspective, and that's not particularly difficult. And then sitting in front of the couch, you have an ottoman. The ottoman is going to be turned at an angle. Well, how do you make the lines for the ottoman go to the right vanishing points? They don't, well, they never do, okay? Your vanishing points are local to the object. Your room has its own set of vanishing points. Your table has its own set of vanishing points. But because your table is oriented respective to the room, it just happens, because of its location and its orientation, to be pointed at the same vanishing points as the room is. The same with your couch. It's pointed at the same vanishing points that your room is. But this ottoman down here, that is pointed at different vanishing points because it's a different object in different perspective. Your perspective on the object is different. Each individual object has its own personal, unique perspective. But when you line everything up, like you line up all of the buildings down the street, you line up buildings down the street, and oh, look, all of their vanishing points are magically shared because they're all oriented the same direction. Because what matters is this face, which is pointed directly at you, and you've got the single point perspective of the vanishing point going up here. But that's because of the arrangement of the items. If you drew a building over here like this, and then you wanted to have another building facing a slightly different direction over here, it would have different vanishing points. It wouldn't have the same vanishing points as this building over here because it's not oriented in the same direction. And all of that was very sloppy and not very precise. Because I'm not being very precise, I'm being sloppy about this. But that's a very important bit. Perspective is one of the big basics that I need to concern myself with. But the other thing is, and this is something I don't see a whole lot of people talk about, when you have an object, okay, and we're going to talk a little bit about boxes and barrels here. When you have a box and a barrel and you shade these, obviously the part that is farther away from the light, if we've got a light shining in this direction here, the part farther away from the light, that's going to be in shadow, you know? But on a curved surface like this, on a curved surface, you're going to have the light hitting here and the shadow coming in over here. But whereas you've got this stark, it just stops at the edge. You've got the shadow and the light or I should use something more of a shadow color here. Okay, let me flip over to flat color. When you've got shadow and light, it's, I'm not doing a very good job here. Oh, hey, what else is new? But when you've got one side of your box in shadow, okay, and the other side of your box in light over here, because you've got a light coming in from this direction, when you're working with a curved surface, with a barrel, it's very dark here, but then it starts to get lighter and it kind of shades in to the lighter side. So you've got the lighter color over here, and there is no stark corner on this shape. And because there's no sharp corner, you need to blend these two things together, and I'm not terribly good at that. You know, so I need to work on like how to do that and how to make that happen. And kind of get that move in. And I've got this, oh, come on. And I've got this fundamental idea of like the basic concept, but I'm just not very good at it. And I need to work with the technique of it to kind of get the shapes to work well together. Get everything. Yeah, this blend brush really just kind of doesn't do a very good job. If I work with blur here, that doesn't seem to work very well either. Make this smaller, does that work better? To blend, you can blend light into dark relatively easily in digital. But not so much in traditional media. And I'm not good at this blending thing. I'm not good at that part. So because I'm not good at that part, I don't really know how I'm going to work on that, but I need to work on that. So I need to work on, I erased my note on perspective because I'm a dumbass. But yeah, we need to work on perspective. What they call lost edges. Lost edges is when you can't tell where the edge of something is. And we've talked a little bit about this in other contexts where when you're working in terms of drawing, then you draw the edges of things. But when you're working in terms of painting, you draw the shapes of things. So you don't so much worry about the edges, you worry about the shapes. And then what you do with that is you, we've got the light coming up this direction, and we've got a little bit less light coming here. But painting works more with shapes, and drawing works more with edges. So you've got this kind of synergy that's going on, and then you've got the shading and shadowing, which is giving these things form and really making them look like solid objects, which is important. It's that combination of the edge and the shape and the form that really kind of give your drawing that sense of being a real thing that really exists. And on top of the perspective and the blending and the lost edges, there is texture. Side. Texture, and texture is just that whole concept of, and I'm really, really bad at this, so it's the concept of not just how you make things look round and flat, but how you make something look soft, how you make it look, how you make something look hard, how you make something look stiff or flexible, how you make it look shiny, or how do you make something look like cloth, how do you make something look like paper, how do you make it look like wood or like rock, how do you make it rough, how do you make it smooth, and all of that stuff. How do you make things look wet? And these texture concepts, these are something that that I need to work on, and I'm really, really bad at them, and I absolutely have no clue what I'm doing with them. And then there's those are kind of the main things I need to work on. I always need to work on anatomy. And I always need to work on anatomy and proportion. Anatomy and proportion. And what else was I thinking here? There was something else that I specifically wanted to call out. Facial expressions. I don't do enough work on facial expressions. So this kind of these are kind of the 5 things that I think are the most important deficiencies that I need to resolve, and I don't feel like any of these are appropriately covered in any of the material that I've got. I haven't really seen a whole lot of stuff on texture, on how to draw texture, how to paint texture, how to make specific textures work. And that is something that I need to put some time in on. But I do not know where to get that information or how to get that information. I'm going to have to do some searches and try to work on it. Now, the texture, actually, now that I think about it, I have, for perspective, the Marcos Matsumester framed perspective books right here, volumes 1 and 2, and I also have his framed ink set. I have framed ink 1 and 2, and then he's also got framed drawing techniques. So I don't know. Let me give a quick flip through these and see if they cover anything related. Let me check the content. Black and white, light and shade, creating and comparing textures and patterns. Textures and materials, page 24. No. When it comes to rendering textures, think in terms of light, how light affects texture, and how texture dictates the way in which light affects the surface. He's got some stuff in here. This is yeah, this has some good stuff in it. I'm not sure if framed ink is going to have anything on texture. Let me give a quick look at that real quick. And let's see. Composing shots, composing continuity. No, it doesn't cover anything about texture in the first book. second volume? Got anything in the second volume? Green. Nope. All tends to be compositional, which is important, but it's not the stuff that I need to work on. So the frame drawing techniques, I have to go to that and take a look at it. I don't have much in terms of there's the Hogar stuff. Barclay's Anatomy Artist. That's not. So yeah, looks like framed drawing techniques is the right reference for that. So I'm going to do a quick framed drawing techniques. Now I'll probably put a link to that in the description. That's definitely something I should throw in there. I should go ahead and look that up real quick. Frame drawing techniques. And there it is right there. And okay, there it is. So I'll put a link to that in the description so that it'll be there. But okay, where was I? Anatomy and proportion. I'm always kind of working on this, and I kind of feel like I've more or less got the basics of this down. I just need more practice. And the facial expressions. I think for facial expressions, I want to look to cartooning references. But perspective and blending and lost edges. That's going to be a big thing. That's something that I definitely need to work on. And the thing is that as a general rule, when I'm going through and sketching something out, I tend to do a reasonably good job on the rough structure. But the rough structure isn't really enough. You also have to kind of understand the full structure of what you're doing and how it all fits together and pose right and get the balance right. Understand all of the little bits and pieces, which I kind of sort of both do and don't. See, this has gotten substantially less substantial on the way down the body. Legs should be bigger. I'm at this kind of awkward stage in my drawing where here's a thing that I've noticed. You know how there's that kind of diamond thing that's going on. It's like if you draw your neck, okay, there's this sort of diamond. Here's the trapezius right here. And here are the collarbones down here. And those collarbones kind of form a diamond shape, okay? Now, on a woman, about halfway down the breastbone right here, there's an additional V, all right? And this tends to be like right in this area, and it sort of swoops over, really. But this area right here, this is where the plane of the flesh bumps out on the breast. So you've got this kind of it's kind of this half and half thing on the pectoral muscle. The pectoral muscle is exactly the same, male and female. Okay, it's anchored in the same place and it's about the same shape. But coming down about halfway on the pectoral muscle, the skin is anchored. The skin is anchored the same way it is for a man. The female breast starts to bump out right about that area. And that's where that comes out from. So I see a lot of people that just kind of make it smooth all the way up. And that would be the case if you have a very large, very full, very heavy breast. But if you've got a slender woman with a reasonably small bust line, then it's going to be anchored right here. You're going to have kind of flat skin. You're going to have this little hollow in here where you've got the trapezius muscle comes in, you've got the muscles of the neck, and then you've got this kind of hollow up underneath of the clavicle. So the clavicle kind of comes up, and then it comes down, remains anchored to the chest, and it's about halfway down the chest muscle that it starts to bulge out into the breast. And this is true even if you have a fairly large cup size until you get to a certain weight where it starts to pull everything down. And also this right here, this is a fat pocket. It's a natural fat pocket. So as the fat content on the body rises, it's going to fill in, and it's also going to fill out across the top of the breast. The way that fat deposits work in the body is fairly simple. You see like the areas that fat collects, and they go in this place first, and then they go in that place, and then they go in that place, and then it just kind of builds in different places. The joints tend to stay free of fat deposits though, because if the joints bulked up with fat, then they couldn't move. So they have to stay relatively free, which is why you get these kind of odd bumping in things. If you have a very obese individual, then the fat will bump inward at the joints and then bump back outward, and it creates a kind of weirdly uncanny appearance. It's the same thing with like the arms, where you'll have this big, huge arm, and then you have this little dinky elbow, and then you have this big, huge forearm again. But I'm always observing stuff. I'm always looking into stuff, and I'm having a really rough time with doing art lately because I'm very frustrated with the lack of progress, how my art goes. So I'm thinking a lot about how things are constructed. And how the actual anatomy works. Like we've talked about this before with the the way the breast attaches up under the arm. There's the attachment of the chest muscle right here. There's the attachment of the axilla underneath the arm right here. And right in between those, there's the axillary process, which is the area that the breast emerges from. It actually starts out kind of tucked up under the arm in this shape. And it lifts up and around. So, that comes up and over. And the nipple is kind of sitting out here at the edge of all that. And that kind of comes in. The nipple would be like right here, but it would be facing in toward the body because it lifts up and around as it comes up to the chest. I've been thinking a lot about how all those things fit together. But that's like stuff I've been thinking about for a long time, and it's not really improving the way that my art looks. It's not improving how quickly I can draw. It's not improving how well I can draw. And it's very frustrating because I'm facing this whole thing where I'm frustrated about the lack of progress, but I also understand that the lack of progress is because I spend so much time being frustrated instead of making progress. And that's this vicious cycle, you know? It's this thing where you need to actually do the things that will make you better at what you're trying to do, instead of just sitting around going, damn it, I don't know how to do the things. You have to do them. You have to go and you have to get them done. You have to understand that as you're doing them, you're going to fuck it up and you're going to need to do it again. I still don't know how to lace the elbow joint onto a masculine muscular arm. I just don't understand how. I haven't looked at it enough. I do know that when you look at it from the outside here, it's got a squared off appearance, whereas when you're looking at a woman, it's much more narrow and angular at that point. And the elbow joints are hinged differently on women. And I look a lot at those differences, the difference between the male elbow and the female elbow, where it seems to narrow down somewhat. And this is exaggerated when you actually do the art. When you look at the actual skeletal system and you see like actual human bones, it's not that pronounced, but it is there. And this is kind of the frustration that I face. And this is the final episode of season 2. We're about to start year 3. And, we're about to start season 3. It's a little past year 3. We had a few episodes of the stream that weren't numbered at all and that weren't part of Sketch Weekly. And now we had one season that was 60 episodes, and we've done the second season is exactly 52. And we're gonna move on, and season 3 is gonna be another exactly 52 episodes, I think. And then eventually, I think there will be a swing episode at some point. I think around season 7 we'll end up having to do a 53 episode season or something like that. Because there's one extra day in the year. There's 52 weeks and a day. And eventually that day is going to add up and add up and add up. And you'll get 7 days, and then that's got to be another week. So that's how that's going to spec out. Every 7 years, we're going to end up with the 53 episode season. God, I'm thinking about 7 years down the road. Man, I would hope I'm better at this in 7 years. Am I better at it after 2 years? That's a good question. How much better am I? How? Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. It was just a couple months ago that I was looking at my work on the various character designs, and as I was looking through them, I was looking at this stuff, and I was going, "This is much better than the work that I used to do." I mean, when I look at the very early character designs that I did, and I look at that, and I look at Aya, and then I look at Haruka, and I just go, "Man, Haruka is much, much better." But it's also stuff like, even after Haruka, you know, it's like Ichigo should have been much better than Haruka, and I don't think she was. I mean, was she? Maybe? But Ichigo was done in an hour, wasn't she? Yeah. Ichigo was done in an hour, and Haruka wasn't. Haruka was done over a much longer period of time. There's still a lot of stuff I'd fix in here. And you can see I had the same problem with blending that I always did. No, I don't want to say that. No, I don't say that. But yeah, I still need to work on perspective. I don't know how much I need to work on perspective, but I definitely, it's really the blending. The blending is the important bit. I need to work on how to blend colors properly. There's all kinds of little things, like when you're drawing something and you're gonna put you've got like grab something approximating a skin tone. So if we grab a skin tone, if you have this skin tone and then you want to come in here and you want to do some lighting, like you've got a light coming in from the side, and you say, okay, this is going to be a yellowish light right here. We're going to have kind of a yellow light. Well, when that yellow light comes in, what you want to do with that is you want to have just a kind of light. Let's put this in the highlighting. That is much, much too opaque. So let's still much too opaque. Let's take that down to like 4. If we highlight, yeah, that works a lot better. So if you highlight there, okay, when you go to shade the other side, you want to take the light a little bit in the other direction, okay, and when you shade, you want to kind of change the hue a little bit. And then try to blend that a little bit. Come over here to the highlight, blend that a little bit. So doesn't seem to be going so well. I think the sketch opacity needed to be a bit stronger on that. Over here to the highlight and go back over here, and we have that kind of situation there, and then we go into our blending. Go shading thing with the shading, but also want to get in right along the so want to get in with a reddish hue kind of right at that border there. Just kind of come in here. Kind of blend that in. Back to a brush and aggressive there. You need to work on that technique, and all I'm really doing here is trying to shade a basic cylinder. I mean, it's just like, here's a cylinder, here's the edge right there. That's really all I'm trying to do, and I'm not doing a very good job of it. And I'm not sure how to do a better job. And it's the actual technique of using the tools that is the blocking point on this. And I'm not sure how to. You know what? Let's start with just this flat color. Let's turn these off. Start with flat there, and turn that off. Start with that flat color there, then we'll jump into shading and get rid of the shading, the highlight, and the palette, the stuff that we did before. So we come into the shading, and what I typically do is use the same color a little bit darker. And I think if we start off going in there, and we start off here kind of going on this side over here, and we do a little bit more of that. This is farther away from the light over here, and then we're going to go, our highlight is going to be closer to the color of the light, and we're going to jump in here like this, and we're going to kind of put that into that area. Then we jump into blend. And then we come over here, smooth out the shading. I think get better results. Smooth in the direction that the surface curves. And then highlight, same. I don't know. I don't feel like that looks good. I feel like, you know what, the highlight should be brighter. The highlight in here should be like substantially brighter, and then we come over here to the blend, and we can blend into the highlight, sort of shape it. And blend along the sort of that maybe. It just turns into mud. It doesn't really produce the effect that I'm looking for because I don't know how to get that. I don't know how to get that effect. It's a real frustration. How do I get it to look the way that I want it to look? I really want to kind of avoid. I want to avoid using undo all the time. I want to kind of learn to fix the things that I'm fucking up. This ended up not looking too bad. I don't think. What if I how does that look? Not terribly. And out a little blur. I mean, that's something, but not happy with it. Not happy with it. It's not very stylized. I don't. Really like the way this turned out, but didn't turn out awful. I just need to spend more time doing it is the thing. I need to spend more time working specifically on the things that are challenging to me. And I'm not doing that. Because I'm busy playing Starfield. and that's sort of getting in the way. Well, it's getting in the way of a lot of stuff. The fundamentals are important, but I don't feel like Drawbox is going to get me any closer to what I'm trying to do. It's not a bad thing. It just doesn't seem like it's the right thing for me. I don't feel like it's focusing on the right aspects of the art. And I think the real thing that I need to worry about, the real thing that I need to invest most of my effort in is Lost Edges. If I could get a clear picture in my head of what it was I wanted, if I could get a clear picture in my head of exactly what I wanted this arm or leg to look like, that's another thing. I don't have the best visualization skill when it comes to imagining what the final piece looks like. I think I need to work on that. I think I need to work on blending. I think blending is the direction I need to focus right now, and I'll work on that. I'll start working on that next season. Shit, we're at the end of the season here. 52 episodes. God, that is 112 consecutive weeks that I've streamed, and I haven't missed a single one. I've had some shitty streams, but it's better to have a shitty stream than no stream at all, if you ask me. And no matter how many shitty streams I do, at least I show the fuck up. That's important. It'd be better if I never had a shitty stream, but have I ever done a stream that wasn't shitty? I don't know. It is Sketch Weekly. It's supposed to be fucking weak, so. The weakness of the week. Oh. That's a concept. That's a concept. The weakness of the week. Every week, examine a particular weakness of a particular piece that I've done. I set a lot of goals. I went, I need to do this, and that would be good for me. And then I did it for a while, and I went, awesome, that's great. But then I stopped doing it. Like there was a while that I was timing everything that I did, and there was a while that I was focused on character generation. I just kind of got burned out on that. I need to think about that whole burnout thing and how to avoid it, how to have a better time with that. One of the things I notice in a lot of professional artists' streams is they do a lot of selecting to make sure they only hit the areas they want to hit. I don't really do that. And I don't know, maybe I need to start. Maybe I need to start doing more, select the area I want to work with, and then just like work only with that area. Process is the real thing. What are the steps? What steps do I need to take? What steps do I need to do? Am I doing them in the right order? Am I doing them well? Geez, it just never ends, does it? No, it never does. Never does. You can always get better. You can always improve. You can always do the next thing. I need to do more of this next thing. I need to start thinking more about. I need to start thinking more about the specifics of what I'm doing. Like the first game I've got on the slate is just character models standing in one location and they don't change. But the next thing I've got on the slate, well, that's likely to be pixel art. They're going to have to be animated, but pixel art and animation, that's something that I've done in the past. It's not going to be terrible. The next one after that might be a little difficult. It might be, I don't know. I think I want to do it in kind of a cartoony style, but that's also going to be animated. That's going to represent its own challenges. Then when we move on to, Growpocalypse Now, that's the one where I have to do backgrounds. I have to do like full-blown CGs in the visual novel style. And that's going to mean high-quality set pieces. And high-quality set pieces are not something I can do right now. Yandere Harem is going to need a lot of high-quality set pieces. There's going to need to be a lot of gore in there. So there's going to be the gore, and there's going to be the porn, and there's going to be the whole... I got to concentrate on how to draw fluids and body parts, both internal and external. And then there's Dating Festival, and Dating Festival is going to be a whole bunch of... That's going to be a whole nother... Well, most of the skills, I think, are the same as in Growpocalypse Now. I think they're more or less the same as the ones in Yandere Harem, too. But then there's also the actual gameplay aspects of that. The thing about Dating Festival, the thing that makes Dating Festival interesting, all of these games have something interesting about them that is different from other games. And the thing about Dating Festival that makes it different from other dating simulators is you have to actually be the person that the person you want to date is interested in. They're not interested in just whoever the fuck shows up. You have to be the right kind of person. So there's a gameplay element where you have to go and practice various skills until you become interesting to the person that you want to date. Because that's much more realistic than the whole tell the right lies in the conversation thing. If you play a game like Honey Pop, they expect you to claim that you like the same things your date likes and memorize all of the facts about your date. Saying you like what your date likes isn't going to score you any points when you go and try to do that thing with them and you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And memorizing all of the little facts and vital statistics of your date, that's just fucking creepy. So, and I know it's never been the goal of a dating simulator to help you get a real date, because then you wouldn't buy any more dating simulators. That's not good for the business model. But I'm not looking at Dating Festival as a dating simulator to substitute for personal interaction, which I think is where a lot of dating simulators try to go. I'm looking at it as an actual game. The dating is kind of the storyline around the game. And I don't know. I think that's more interesting. I like the notion of having to learn what your date is interested in and then go do the things your date is interested in to get them interested. But yeah, that's what makes that interesting. Even Groping Festival, it looks like your basic clicker game, but the real meat of it is the Prestige Matrix. The Prestige Matrix is interesting. Everything around that is just an excuse to mess with the Prestige Matrix and see what I can do with that. But anyway, whoa, we're over an hour. So, yeah, do the little YouTube dance, like, comment, subscribe, hit the little fucking bell icon, and, we'll be here next week for the beginning of season 3. And as we start season 3, we'll start working on this whole blending thing. We'll start working on finding the techniques. I gotta book more time during the week to actually, like, work on my art and not just play Starfield constantly. But it may take a while before I do that, because I'm really enjoying Starfield. It's a great fucking game. And, yeah. So that's where we are. That's where we're going to go with stuff. And, okay, bye.